Dr. Elena Gray stood at the intersection, the sound of a car screeching to a halt filling her ears. Her daughter, Lily, was seconds away from stepping into the street. As Elena activated the device that could change everything, a voice echoed through the chaos. "Elena Gray, it's over!" Agent Harris and his team had found them. Would they complete their mission and alter the timeline, or would the TGA's grip on time prove too strong? In the year 2147, the world had reached the pinnacle of technological advancement. Towering cities of gleaming glass and steel stretched towards the heavens, while deep below, intricate networks of tunnels and facilities buzzed with life. Humanity had conquered the stars, created AI companions, and even defeated death to a certain extent. Yet, one frontier remained tightly controlled: time travel. The Time Governance Agency, or TGA, was the omnipotent organization that controlled time travel. Established in the aftermath of the Time Wars, a series of conflicts that nearly tore apart the fabric of reality, the TGA's mandate was clear: prevent any unauthorized manipulation of time. Their agents, highly trained and equipped with the latest temporal technology, ensured that time flowed as it should. Dr. Elena Gray, once a promising scientist within the TGA, now lived on the fringes of this society. Her brilliance was matched only by her rebellious spirit. Disillusioned with the TGA's rigid control and haunted by a personal tragedy, Elena had turned her back on the agency. She now worked in the shadows, driven by a single purpose: to steal time itself. Elena's home was a hidden laboratory nestled in the derelict remnants of old Chicago. The city above had moved on, leaving behind a labyrinth of forgotten tunnels and secret chambers, perfect for someone who needed to disappear. It was here, in this subterranean world, that Elena made her breakthrough. "Time is not a river," she mused, staring at the quantum particles swirling in her containment field. "It's an ocean, and I've found a way to dive deep." Her discovery was nothing short of revolutionary. By manipulating quantum particles, Elena had found a method to isolate and steal moments of time. She could extract time from one point and reinsert it at another, effectively altering the flow of events. It was dangerous, illegal, and exactly what she needed. As she refined her technique, her mind often drifted to her past. She had once been a celebrated member of the TGA, her research pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But everything changed the day she lost her daughter, Lily. An accident, the TGA had told her. A timeline corrected. But Elena knew better. She had seen the signs, the subtle shifts that indicated a deliberate manipulation. Someone had used time against her, and the TGA had covered it up. From that moment, her purpose became clear. She would find a way to control time, to undo the wrongs done to her. And now, with her breakthrough, she was ready to take the next step. The first experiment was a small one. Elena set her sights on a simple object, a flower in her lab. She activated her device, watching as the flower's bloom rewound and then moved forward in time. It was a success. The implications were staggering. With this technology, she could do more than just change objects. She could alter events, rewrite history, save her daughter. But she couldn't do it alone. For her plan to succeed, she needed a team of specialists. People she could trust, with skills that complemented her own. It was time to assemble her crew. As Elena began to compile a list of potential allies, she knew the TGA would not remain ignorant for long. Her activities would soon attract their attention, and when they did, she would be ready. The countdown to the heist had begun. With determination etched into her every move, Elena sent out the call. "I have a job," she wrote in her encrypted message. "A heist like no other. We're going to steal time. Are you in?" The replies came quickly, each one filled with intrigue and eagerness. Her team was coming together. The stage was set for a daring heist that would change the course of history. Dr. Elena Gray had always been a pioneer. From her early days as a prodigy in quantum physics to her groundbreaking work at the Time Governance Agency, she had pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Her colleagues admired her, her superiors respected her, and the world saw her as a genius. But behind her brilliant mind was a heart scarred by loss. Elena's journey into the heart of the TGA began with ambition and idealism. She believed in the agency's mission to protect the timeline and prevent the chaos of the Time Wars from ever happening again. Her research into quantum particles and temporal mechanics was unparalleled, and she quickly rose through the ranks. It was during this time that she met and married James, a fellow scientist with whom she shared a deep bond. Their daughter, Lily, was the light of their lives. Balancing her demanding career with motherhood was challenging, but Elena managed, driven by her love for her family and her passion for her work. Tragedy struck one fateful day when Lily was just 6 years old. Elena had been working late in the lab when she received the call that would shatter her world. Lily had been in a car accident. By the time Elena reached the hospital, it was too late. Her daughter was gone, and her life, once filled with promise, was plunged into darkness. The official report from the TGA was clear: an unfortunate accident, a minor anomaly in the timeline that had been corrected. But Elena's grief-stricken mind could not accept this explanation. She began to see patterns, inconsistencies in the official narrative. She became obsessed with uncovering the truth, convinced that Lily's death was no accident but a result of deliberate manipulation. Her relentless pursuit of answers led her to uncover classified information that hinted at a covert operation within the TGA. Someone had altered the timeline, and Lily had been caught in the crossfire. Confronting her superiors only resulted in further loss. James, unable to cope with Elena's obsession and the strain it placed on their marriage, left her. Alone and disillusioned, Elena resigned from the TGA, vowing to find justice on her own terms. Years of underground research followed. Elena used her knowledge and skills to develop a method of manipulating quantum particles, allowing her to isolate and control moments of time. Her ultimate goal was clear: to go back and save Lily, to rewrite the timeline and restore her family. But such a task required more than just scientific brilliance. It needed a team, a plan, and the courage to face the formidable TGA. As Elena worked in her hidden lab, refining her techniques and preparing for the heist, she knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger. Her mind drifted to the people she would need: a hacker to infiltrate the TGA's secure systems, a master of disguise to help them move undetected, a strategist to plan their every move, and a few skilled operatives to handle any physical obstacles. Each team member would play a crucial role in the mission. Elena sent out her encrypted messages, carefully selecting individuals who shared her mistrust of the TGA or had personal stakes in altering the timeline. She promised them a chance to change their past, to right the wrongs they had suffered. The responses were swift and positive. Her team was coming together. As the day of the heist approached, Elena's thoughts returned to Lily. She looked at the only photograph she kept of her daughter, a bittersweet reminder of what she had lost and what she was fighting for. "I'll make it right, Lily," she whispered. "I promise." The stage was set. The players were ready. And in the shadows, the TGA remained unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Dr. Elena Gray, once a loyal servant of time, was now its most dangerous rogue element. And she was just getting started. The quiet hum of the laboratory was the only sound as Dr. Elena Gray made final adjustments to her quantum temporal device. She had spent years perfecting this technology, driven by a singular purpose: to reclaim the time that had been stolen from her. The glowing particles within the containment field danced like fireflies, each representing a moment waiting to be captured. Elena's breakthrough had come unexpectedly, a result of countless sleepless nights and relentless experimentation. By manipulating quantum particles, she discovered she could isolate specific temporal coordinates, essentially stealing time from one point and redistributing it to another. The implications were staggering. With this technology, she could alter the past, fix the mistakes that had cost her everything. The potential applications were limitless, but Elena's focus remained on one goal: saving Lily. Her first successful experiment had been a small one. She reversed the wilting of a flower, watching in awe as it bloomed anew. Encouraged, she moved on to more complex trials. A broken watch was restored to perfect working condition, and a scorched piece of paper was returned to its original state. Each success brought her closer to her ultimate objective. But the power to manipulate time came with immense responsibility. Elena was acutely aware of the ethical dilemmas her discovery posed. Changing the past could have unforeseen consequences, rippling through the timeline and altering the present in unpredictable ways. She needed to proceed with caution. Elena documented every experiment meticulously, ensuring she understood the full scope of her actions. Her lab was filled with notes, equations, and diagrams detailing the intricacies of her quantum temporal manipulation device. She knew that if the TGA ever discovered her work, they would stop at nothing to seize it and silence her. As the day of the heist approached, Elena's preparations intensified. She had assembled a team of specialists, each bringing unique skills essential for the mission. They met in secrecy, planning their every move with precision. First was Marcus, a brilliant hacker with a knack for bypassing the most secure systems. His expertise would be crucial in infiltrating the TGA's highly protected databases and disabling their security protocols. Next was Sylvia, a master of disguise and infiltration. Her ability to blend into any environment and assume multiple identities would allow them to move undetected within the TGA's central hub. Then there was David, a former military strategist with a sharp mind for planning and execution. His experience in high-stakes operations made him the perfect choice to coordinate their efforts and handle any unforeseen complications. Finally, Elena recruited a pair of skilled operatives, Lucas and Maya, to manage the physical aspects of the heist. Their combat training and agility would ensure the team could navigate any obstacles and defend themselves if necessary. Together, they formed a formidable team, united by a common goal. Each had their reasons for joining Elena's cause, personal stakes that aligned with her mission. As they finalized their plans, the weight of what they were about to attempt pressed heavily on them all. One evening, as they gathered in Elena's lab for a final briefing, the gravity of their endeavor hung in the air. "We have one shot at this," Elena reminded them. "Once we initiate the heist, there's no turning back. We must be prepared for anything." Marcus nodded, his fingers tapping rapidly on his laptop. "I've set up a secure network and encrypted communication channels. We'll be able to stay in contact throughout the operation." Sylvia adjusted her glasses, her expression serious. "I've prepared our disguises and forged the necessary identification. We'll be able to move through the facility without raising suspicion." David spread out a detailed map of the TGA's central hub. "Our entry points and escape routes are mapped out. We'll need to move quickly and efficiently. Timing is everything." Lucas and Maya exchanged a glance, their determination evident. "We're ready for whatever comes our way," Lucas said confidently. Elena took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "Remember why we're doing this. We're not just stealing time, we're fighting for our futures, for the chance to make things right. Let's make it count." As they parted ways to make their final preparations, Elena lingered in the lab, her thoughts once again turning to Lily. She picked up the photograph of her daughter, tracing the outline of her smiling face. "I'm coming for you, Lily," she whispered. "Hold on just a little longer." With everything in place, the countdown to the heist began. The next 48 hours would determine the success of their mission and the future of their lives. Elena and her team were ready to challenge the TGA's control over time and seize their chance at redemption. In the dimly lit confines of the underground lab, the air was thick with anticipation. The assembled team stood around a holographic projection of the TGA's central hub, the nerve center of time regulation and control. Dr. Elena Gray, the mastermind behind the daring heist, began to outline their plan with meticulous precision. "Welcome to the heart of the operation," Elena said, her voice steady. "This is where it all happens. The TGA's central hub houses the temporal core, the most secure and heavily guarded location in existence. Our objective is to access the core, extract the temporal coordinates we need, and get out undetected." Marcus, the hacker, stepped forward and highlighted key areas on the holographic map. "The first step is infiltration. We'll enter through a service tunnel that leads to a maintenance hatch on the lower levels. From there, I'll disable the security systems and create a backdoor in their network, allowing us to move freely without triggering alarms. Sylvia, the master of disguise, added, once inside, we'll split into 2 teams. I'll lead the infiltration team with Elena and Lucas. Our job is to reach the temporal core and extract the data. David, you'll lead the support team with Marcus and Maya. You'll cover our escape routes and handle any complications that arise. David nodded, his strategic mind already calculating contingencies. We've identified several potential exit points. Our primary route is through the emergency egress tunnels, but if things go south, we have backup plans in place. The key is to stay coordinated and move quickly. Elena took over again, her eyes intense. Once we're inside the temporal core, I'll access the mainframe and locate the specific temporal coordinates we need. This data is essential for our plan to alter the past and save Lily. It's critical that we don't deviate from the timeline we've established. Any mistakes could have catastrophic consequences. The team spent hours rehearsing their roles, running simulations, and fine-tuning their equipment. Every detail had to be perfect, there was no room for error. As the night wore on, the weight of the mission pressed heavily on their shoulders, but their resolve remained unshaken. The next evening, under the cover of darkness, the team made their way to the designated rendezvous point. The streets were quiet, the city's bustling life oblivious to the monumental heist about to unfold beneath their feet. As they descended into the service tunnel, a sense of unity and purpose enveloped them. They moved silently, each step bringing them closer to their goal. Marcus worked swiftly, his fingers flying over the keys of his portable terminal, bypassing security protocols and opening the maintenance hatch. They slipped inside, the cold, sterile environment of the TGA's lower levels contrasting sharply with the gritty tunnels they had just traversed. Sylvia led the way, her expert knowledge of disguise allowing them to blend seamlessly into their surroundings. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, Elena's mind was focused on the task at hand. She could feel the weight of the temporal device strapped to her back, the culmination of years of research and sacrifice. The thought of Lily's smiling face gave her strength, propelling her forward. Reaching the access point to the temporal core, Marcus paused to disable the final layer of security. "We're in," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The door slid open, revealing the vast chamber that housed the temporal core, a pulsating sphere of energy and data. Elena, Sylvia, and Lucas entered the chamber, their eyes adjusting to the blinding light. Elena approached the central console, her hands trembling slightly as she connected her device. The data stream began to flow, and she quickly located the temporal coordinates she needed. Outside, David and his team monitored the perimeter, their senses on high alert. The faintest sound or movement could signal impending danger. Maya's sharp eyes caught a flicker on one of the security monitors. "We've got company," she said tersely. "TGA patrols are heading our way." David's voice crackled over the comms. "Elena, you need to hurry. We've got incoming patrols." Inside the temporal core, Elena worked faster, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Almost there," she replied, her voice strained with urgency. With the data transfer complete, Elena signaled to her team. "We've got what we need. Let's move." Sylvia led the way, her practiced movements guiding them through the maze of corridors. As they approached the exit, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. The TGA patrols were closing in. David's team sprang into action, engaging the patrols with calculated precision. The sound of gunfire echoed through the halls as Marcus and Maya provided cover, allowing Elena and her team to make their escape. Reaching the emergency egress tunnels, they activated the exit sequence, the heavy doors sliding open to reveal the path to freedom. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as they raced through the tunnels, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they emerged into the night air, the relief was palpable. They had done it. The temporal coordinates were in their possession, and the first phase of the heist was complete. But the mission was far from over. The TGA would not rest until they were captured, and the true test of their unity and resolve was yet to come. Elena and her team had set in motion a chain of events that would challenge the very fabric of time and control. With the temporal coordinates secured, they had the means to alter the past and reclaim what had been lost. But the journey ahead would be fraught with danger as they faced off against the relentless TGA and confronted the ethical dilemmas of their actions. As they regrouped in the safety of their hidden base, Elena looked at her team with gratitude and determination. "We've taken the first step," she said. "Now we fight for the future we believe in. Together." The heist was just the beginning. The real battle was about to unfold, and the fate of time itself hung in the balance. In the dimly lit confines of the underground lab, the air was thick with anticipation. The assembled team stood around a holographic projection of the TGA's central hub, the nerve center of time regulation and control. Dr. Elena Gray, the mastermind behind the daring heist, began to outline their plan with meticulous precision. "Welcome to the heart of the operation," Elena said, her voice steady. "This is where it all happens. The TGA's central hub houses the temporal core, the most secure and heavily guarded location in existence. Our objective is to access the core, extract the temporal coordinates we need, and get out undetected." Marcus, the hacker, stepped forward and highlighted key areas on the holographic map. "The first step is infiltration. We'll enter through a service tunnel that leads to a maintenance hatch on the lower levels. From there, I'll disable the security systems and create a backdoor in their network, allowing us to move freely without triggering alarms." Sylvia, the master of disguise, added, "Once inside, we'll split into 2 teams. I'll lead the infiltration team with Elena and Lucas. Our job is to reach the temporal core and extract the data. David, you'll lead the support team with Marcus and Maya. You'll cover our escape routes and handle any complications that arise." David nodded, his strategic mind already calculating contingencies. "We've identified several potential exit points. Our primary route is through the emergency egress tunnels, but if things go south, we have backup plans in place. The key is to stay coordinated and move quickly." Elena took over again, her eyes intense. "Once we're inside the temporal core, I'll access the mainframe and locate the specific temporal coordinates we need. This data is essential for our plan to alter the past and save Lily. It's critical that we don't deviate from the timeline we've established. Any mistakes could have catastrophic consequences." The team spent hours rehearsing their roles, running simulations, and fine-tuning their equipment. Every detail had to be perfect, there was no room for error. As the night wore on, the weight of the mission pressed heavily on their shoulders, but their resolve remained unshaken. The next evening, under the cover of darkness, the team made their way to the designated rendezvous point. The streets were quiet, the city's bustling life oblivious to the monumental heist about to unfold beneath their feet. As they descended into the service tunnel, a sense of unity and purpose enveloped them. They moved silently, each step bringing them closer to their goal. Marcus worked swiftly, his fingers flying over the keys of his portable terminal, bypassing security protocols and opening the maintenance hatch. They slipped inside, the cold, sterile environment of the TGA's lower levels contrasting sharply with the gritty tunnels they had just traversed. Sylvia led the way, her expert knowledge of disguise allowing them to blend seamlessly into their surroundings. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, Elena's mind was focused on the task at hand. She could feel the weight of the temporal device strapped to her back, the culmination of years of research and sacrifice. The thought of Lily's smiling face gave her strength, propelling her forward. Reaching the access point to the temporal core, Marcus paused to disable the final layer of security. "We're in," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The door slid open, revealing the vast chamber that housed the temporal core, a pulsating sphere of energy and data. Elena, Sylvia, and Lucas entered the chamber, their eyes adjusting to the blinding light. Elena approached the central console, her hands trembling slightly as she connected her device. The data stream began to flow, and she quickly located the temporal coordinates she needed. Outside, David and his team monitored the perimeter, their senses on high alert. The faintest sound or movement could signal impending danger. Maya's sharp eyes caught a flicker on one of the security monitors. "We've got company," she said tersely. "TGA patrols are heading our way." David's voice crackled over the comms. "Elena, you need to hurry. We've got incoming patrols." Inside the temporal core, Elena worked faster, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Almost there," she replied, her voice strained with urgency. With the data transfer complete, Elena signaled to her team. "We've got what we need. Let's move." Sylvia led the way, her practiced movements guiding them through the maze of corridors. As they approached the exit, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. The TGA patrols were closing in. David's team sprang into action, engaging the patrols with calculated precision. The sound of gunfire echoed through the halls as Marcus and Maya provided cover, allowing Elena and her team to make their escape. Reaching the emergency egress tunnels, they activated the exit sequence, the heavy doors sliding open to reveal the path to freedom. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as they raced through the tunnels, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they emerged into the night air, the relief was palpable. They had done it. The temporal coordinates were in their possession, and the first phase of the heist was complete. But the mission was far from over. The TGA would not rest until they were captured, and the true test of their unity and resolve was yet to come. Elena and her team had set in motion a chain of events that would challenge the very fabric of time and control. With the temporal coordinates secured, they had the means to alter the past and reclaim what had been lost. But the journey ahead would be fraught with danger as they faced off against the relentless TGA and confronted the ethical dilemmas of their actions. As they regrouped in the safety of their hidden base, Elena looked at her team with gratitude and determination. "We've taken the first step," she said. "Now we fight for the future we believe in. Together." The heist was just the beginning. The real battle was about to unfold, and the fate of time itself hung in the balance. The Time Governance Agency, TGA, had always prided itself on its tight control over temporal activities. Every anomaly, every blip in the timeline was monitored, analyzed, and rectified with precision. So when unusual temporal signatures started appearing, it didn't take long for the TGA to take notice. Agent Harris, a seasoned and relentless TGA agent, was summoned to the command center. Tall and imposing, with a reputation for being thorough and unyielding, Harris had been at the forefront of several critical temporal corrections. His presence commanded respect and a tinge of fear among his peers. "Agent Harris," the director began, "we've detected significant temporal anomalies originating from the old city sectors. Our initial scans indicate unauthorized temporal manipulation." Harris's eyes narrowed. "Do we have any suspects?" "Not yet, but our systems flagged this pattern as similar to the work of Dr. Elena Gray." Harris's jaw tightened at the mention of her name. He remembered Elena well, a brilliant scientist turned rogue after a tragic incident that the TGA had classified. Her defection had been a black mark on the agency, and Harris had been the one tasked with monitoring her activities. Despite his efforts, she had managed to stay off the radar until now. "Elena Gray," Harris muttered. "What has she been up to?" The director handed him a dossier filled with recent surveillance reports and anomaly data. "We believe she's developed a method to manipulate time itself. This goes beyond simple time travel. If she succeeds, it could destabilize the entire timeline." Harris nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "I'll handle it. We need to shut her down before she can cause any more damage." With the dossier in hand, Harris left the command center and headed to his office. He knew Elena was a formidable opponent, intelligent, resourceful, and driven by a personal vendetta. Tracking her down would be challenging, but Harris relished the hunt. He activated his terminal, accessing the latest data on temporal disturbances and setting up surveillance sweeps across potential hideouts. Meanwhile, in the hidden depths of old Chicago, Elena and her team were unaware that their heist had triggered a response from the TGA. They were busy analyzing the temporal coordinates they had extracted, preparing for the next phase of their plan. We have a narrow window to execute the next step, Marcus explained, displaying the temporal data on a holographic screen. These coordinates will allow us to access a specific moment in the past. We can't afford any delays. Elena nodded, her focus unwavering. We need to move quickly. The TGA will be onto us soon, if they aren't already. As the team worked tirelessly, Agent Harris was closing in. His agents had scoured the old city sectors, pinpointing a series of energy signatures that matched Elena's temporal manipulation device. It was only a matter of time before they converged on her location. The tension in the lab was palpable. Elena could feel the pressure mounting. She knew the risks involved in altering the past, but the thought of saving Lily drove her forward. She couldn't let her team down, and she couldn't fail her daughter. As the final preparations were made, Elena gathered her team for a briefing. This is it. We're about to make history. Our objective is clear. We use the temporal coordinates to go back and change the event that took Lily. We need to be precise. Any deviation could have unforeseen consequences. David, ever the strategist, added, "We'll split into pairs. Each pair will have a specific task to ensure the timeline remains stable. Marcus and I will handle the technical adjustments. Sylvia and Lucas will manage any physical obstacles. Elena, you and Maya will focus on the main objective." They nodded in agreement, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Just as they were about to initiate the temporal jump, the lab's security alarms blared. The TGA had found them. Agent Harris and his team stormed the entrance, their weapons drawn and ready. "Elena Gray, you're under arrest for unauthorized temporal manipulation," Harris's voice echoed through the tunnels. Elena's heart raced. "We need to go, now," she shouted, activating the temporal device. The room filled with a blinding light as the temporal field enveloped them. In an instant, they were gone, leaving the lab in chaos. Harris cursed under his breath as he surveyed the empty room. "Damn it! Secure the area and analyze the equipment. I want to know where and when they went." The TGA agents spread out, collecting data and scanning the remnants of Elena's work. Harris knew she was clever, but he also knew she wouldn't get far. The chase was on, and he was determined to bring her to justice. The blinding light faded, and Elena and her team found themselves standing in a bustling cityscape, the familiar sights and sounds of old Chicago replaced by a vibrant metropolis from decades past. The temporal coordinates had worked, transporting them to the precise moment they needed. But there was no time to marvel at their success. They had a mission to complete. "Stay focused," Elena instructed, her voice steady despite the urgency. "We have a narrow window to make the necessary changes." The team split into pairs as planned. Marcus and David headed to a nearby communications hub to disable security systems and ensure their presence remained undetected. Sylvia and Lucas moved towards key access points, ready to handle any physical obstacles or confrontations. Elena and Maya made their way to the intersection where the fateful accident had occurred. The streets were crowded with pedestrians and vehicles, the hustle and bustle of city life oblivious to the extraordinary event about to unfold. "We need to ensure the chain of events changes without causing a ripple effect," Maya reminded, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any potential threats. Elena nodded, her mind racing with the implications. She spotted the car that had been involved in the accident, a few blocks away. Her heart pounded as she approached the scene, every second bringing her closer to the moment that had haunted her for years. Meanwhile, Agent Harris and his team, using the data collected from Elena's lab, had traced the temporal signatures and followed them to the same point in the past. They arrived in old Chicago, their advanced technology blending seamlessly with the era. "Spread out and find them," Harris ordered. "We cannot allow them to alter the timeline." As Harris and his agents fanned out, the tension in the air grew palpable. Elena and Maya reached the intersection, positioning themselves strategically. The car that would hit Lily was approaching, and time seemed to slow as the crucial moment neared. Elena's breath caught in her throat as she saw a young girl, Lily, standing on the sidewalk, moments away from stepping into the street. "Lily," she whispered, her heart aching with longing. Maya placed a hand on Elena's shoulder. We can't intervene directly. We need to create a distraction. With a nod, Elena activated a small device, causing a nearby fire hydrant to burst, spraying water into the street. The sudden commotion drew the attention of pedestrians and drivers alike. The car that would have struck Lily swerved to avoid the geyser of water, missing her by mere inches. Elena watched in relief as Lily's mother pulled her back to safety, the crisis averted. Tears welled in her eyes as she saw her daughter alive and well. The moment she had fought so hard for had finally come to pass. But their success was short-lived. Agent Harris, having spotted the temporal disturbance, closed in on their location. Elena Gray, it's over, he shouted, his agents surrounding them. Maya stepped forward, ready to defend their position. We need to get out of here, she urged. Elena nodded, her eyes still fixed on Lily. We've done what we came to do. Let's move. As they retreated, a tense chase ensued through the crowded streets. Harris and his agents were relentless, their determination matched only by Elena's resolve to escape. Marcus and David, having completed their task, joined the fray, using their skills to create diversions and delay the pursuing agents. Sylvia and Lucas intercepted Harris's team, engaging in a series of close calls and technological tricks to outmaneuver them. The team's coordinated efforts kept the TGA agents at bay, but the relentless pursuit took its toll. Elena and Maya reached the extraction point, where the temporal device awaited to transport them back to the present. We need to hold them off for a few more seconds, Elena said, setting the coordinates. As the TGA agents closed in, the device activated, enveloping the team in another blinding light. In an instant, they were gone, leaving Harris and his agents behind once again. Back in their present, the team regrouped in their hidden base, their hearts still pounding from the adrenaline-fueled chase. They had succeeded in changing the past, but the consequences of their actions were yet to be seen. Elena's thoughts turned to Lily, wondering how the altered timeline would impact their lives. The reality they had returned to was unfamiliar, the outcome of their actions still unfolding. As the team settled, Elena addressed them, her voice filled with gratitude and determination. We've done the impossible, but our journey is far from over. The TGA will stop at nothing to find us, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next. The team nodded, their resolve unwavering. They had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious, but the true test of their unity and strength was still ahead. As the dawn of a new reality broke, Elena knew that their fight for control over time had only just begun. The future was uncertain, but with her team by her side, she was ready to face it head-on. The air in the hidden base was charged with anticipation. The team had managed to change the past, but the victory felt precarious. They knew that the TGA would intensify their efforts to capture them. Elena and her team had to be prepared for the next inevitable confrontation. While Elena analyzed the immediate changes in the timeline, Marcus monitored TGA communications. We've disrupted their timeline, Marcus reported. The TGA is in chaos, but they're also mobilizing a massive search effort to find us. David mapped out potential threats. We need to stay ahead of them. Our best defense is to keep moving and stay unpredictable. Elena nodded, her mind racing with strategies. We need to understand the full impact of our actions. If we've created any new anomalies, the TGA will use them to track us. Let's focus on stabilizing the timeline first. As they worked, Elena noticed subtle changes in the world around them. Small details were different, but the most significant change was a photograph of Lily on her desk, a current picture instead of a memory. Tears of relief filled her eyes. Their mission had succeeded in saving her daughter. However, the relief was short-lived. Marcus's terminal beeped urgently. We've got a location breach. The TGA has pinpointed our base. A sense of urgency gripped the team. Pack up, David ordered. We need to move now. As they hurried to gather their equipment, the walls around them began to tremble. The TGA had found them, and their forces were closing in. Elena activated a secure exit route, leading them through a series of underground tunnels. The team moved swiftly, but the TGA agents were relentless. Explosions rocked the tunnels as the TGA attempted to cut off their escape routes. Agent Harris was leading the charge, his determination to capture Elena evident in his every move. The tunnels led to an old abandoned subway station. Elena and her team emerged, their path lit by the flickering lights of the derelict infrastructure. "We need to create a diversion," Elena said, her mind racing. "We'll split up and regroup at the secondary location." David, Marcus, and Sylvia took one path while Elena, Maya, and Lucas took another. As they split, Harris's team also divided, tracking both groups. Elena and her group navigated through the labyrinthine tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. "We're almost there," Maya said, pointing to a service hatch that led to the surface. But just as they reached the hatch, Harris and his agents caught up. "End of the line, Elena," Harris called out, his weapon trained on them. Elena turned to face him, her eyes defiant. "You can't control time, Harris. You never could." Harris stepped forward, his expression hard. "Your actions have endangered the entire timeline. Surrender now, and we might be able to fix this." "We're not the ones who need fixing," Elena replied. "The TGA's control is the real threat." A tense standoff ensued. Maya and Lucas readied their weapons, prepared to defend their position. Harris's agents moved in, surrounding them. The air was thick with tension as Elena spoke again. "The TGA doesn't understand the true nature of time. It's not something to be controlled, it's something to be respected." Harris's gaze wavered, just for a moment. "And what makes you think you understand it better?" "Because I've seen what happens when you try to manipulate it for your own ends," Elena said. "You end up destroying the very thing you're trying to protect." A sudden explosion from the opposite end of the tunnel drew everyone's attention. David and his team had created a diversion, giving Elena and her group a chance to escape. "Go," Elena shouted to Maya and Lucas. "I'll hold them off." Maya hesitated, but Lucas pulled her towards the hatch. "We'll meet you at the secondary location," he promised. Elena faced Harris, her resolve unyielding. "This isn't over, Harris." "Not by a long shot," he replied, signaling his agents to move in. As Elena activated another temporal device, the world around her blurred. She reappeared in a new location, safe for the moment but aware that the TGA would continue their pursuit. Reuniting with her team at the secondary location, Elena took a moment to catch her breath. "We've bought ourselves some time, but we need to keep moving." David nodded. "What's our next move?" Elena looked at the temporal device, her mind already formulating a plan. "We need to go on the offensive. It's time to confront the TGA head-on and expose the truth about their control over time." The team rallied, their spirits bolstered by the knowledge that they had already achieved the impossible. The showdown with the TGA was inevitable, but they were ready to fight for their future. As they prepared for the final confrontation, Elena's thoughts returned to Lily. She had saved her daughter, but the battle for control over time was far from over. With her team by her side, she was determined to challenge the TGA's authority and secure a future where time was respected, not controlled. The success of their mission to change the past had come at a high price. As Elena and her team regrouped, the reality of their actions began to unfold. The timeline had been altered, and while they had achieved their primary goal of saving Lily, the ripple effects of their interference were becoming apparent. In their new base of operations, a converted warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the team gathered to assess the situation. Marcus was already at his terminal, analyzing the data they had collected. "There are multiple anomalies in the timeline," he reported. "Small changes that have created unexpected outcomes." David reviewed the information, his expression serious. "We need to stabilize these anomalies before they cause further disruptions. The TGA will use any irregularity as a reason to track us down." Elena paced the room, her mind racing. "We have to be methodical. Identify the most critical anomalies and address them first. As they worked, Elena couldn't help but think about the ethical implications of their actions. They had altered the past for a personal gain, and now they were dealing with the consequences. The weight of her decisions pressed heavily on her, but she knew they couldn't afford to dwell on the past. They had to move forward. One of the most significant anomalies involved a key historical figure whose actions had been inadvertently changed by their interference. This individual's altered decisions were leading to a series of events that could destabilize the current timeline. "We need to correct this," Helena said, pointing to the anomaly on the screen. "If we don't, the consequences could be catastrophic." Sylvia, ever the master of disguise, volunteered for the task. "I'll handle it. We can't afford any mistakes." The team prepared for another temporal jump, their determination unwavering. They had succeeded once, and they would do it again. As Sylvia departed for her mission, the rest of the team continued to monitor the timeline, ready to address any new issues that arose. Back in the present, the changes in the timeline began to stabilize. The anomalies were being corrected one by one, but the process was slow and meticulous. The TGA, however, was not slowing down. Agent Harris was relentless in his pursuit, determined to bring Elena and her team to justice. In a high-security TGA facility, Harris convened a meeting with his top agents. "We've identified the sources of the anomalies," he said, displaying the data on a large screen. "Elena Gray and her team are the cause. We need to apprehend them before they cause any more damage." The agents nodded, their resolve clear. The hunt for Elena Gray was intensifying, and the TGA was pulling out all the stops. Meanwhile, Sylvia successfully completed her mission, correcting the key anomaly. The timeline began to stabilize further, but the team knew they were far from safe. The TGA was closing in, and they had to stay one step ahead. As they prepared for their next move, Elena gathered her team. "We've made significant progress, but the TGA is relentless. We need to be prepared for the final confrontation. Our goal is to expose the truth about the TGA's control over time and secure a future where time is respected, not manipulated." David nodded, his eyes steely with determination. "We're with you, Elena. We'll fight for our future." The team's unity and resolve were unshakable. They had faced insurmountable odds and emerged stronger. The final battle with the TGA was approaching, and they were ready. As they made their final preparations, Elena took a moment to reflect. She had set out to save her daughter and had succeeded, but the journey had revealed deeper truths about the nature of time and control. The TGA's authoritarian grip on the timeline had to be challenged, and she was prepared to lead that fight. With her team by her side, Elena knew they could change the course of history once again. The consequences of their actions had brought them to this point, and now, they were ready to face whatever the future held. The dawn of a new era was on the horizon, and Elena and her team were prepared to fight for a future where time was a shared resource, respected and protected by all. The battle for control over time was far from over, but their resolve was unwavering. The final confrontation with the Time Governance Agency was fast approaching. Elena and her team had made their preparations, addressing the anomalies they had created and stabilizing the timeline as best they could. But the TGA was still a formidable force, and Agent Harris was relentless in his pursuit. The plan was to infiltrate the TGA's central headquarters and expose the truth about their manipulative control over time. Elena believed that by revealing the TGA's actions to the world, they could dismantle the agency's power and create a future where time was respected rather than controlled. As the team gathered for their final briefing, the tension was palpable. They knew this mission would be their most dangerous yet. Failure was not an option. "We've come a long way," Elena began, her voice steady. "We've faced impossible odds and changed the course of history. Now, we must finish what we started. The TGA's grip on time must be broken." David outlined their plan. "We'll split into two teams. Marcus and I will disable their security systems and create a diversion. Sylvia, Lucas, Maya, and Elena will infiltrate the central command and access the TGA's mainframe. Once we have the evidence, we'll broadcast it to the world." The team nodded, their determination clear. They had trained for this moment, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Under the cover of darkness, they made their way to the TGA headquarters. The building loomed ominously, a fortress of advanced technology and security. Marcus worked swiftly, bypassing the outer defenses and creating a path for the infiltration team. Inside, the team moved with precision, navigating the labyrinthine corridors towards the central command. As they approached the mainframe, Elena couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. This was it, the moment that would define their future. They reached the central command, and Marcus's diversion had worked. Security was minimal, and they quickly accessed the mainframe. Elena began downloading the evidence, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Suddenly, the room was flooded with light. Agent Harris and his team had found them. "Step away from the console, Elena," Harris ordered, his voice cold and authoritative. Elena turned to face him, her eyes defiant. "The world deserves to know the truth, Harris. You can't control time forever." Harris stepped forward, his weapon drawn. "You're endangering the entire timeline. Your actions have consequences." "And so do yours," Elena shot back. "The TGA's manipulation of time has caused more harm than good. It's time for the truth to come out." Before Harris could react, Sylvia and Lucas sprang into action, disarming the agents and creating a path for Elena to complete the download. Maya activated the broadcast system, ready to transmit the evidence to the world. With the download complete, Elena initiated the broadcast. "People of the world, this is Dr. Elena Gray. The Time Governance Agency has been controlling and manipulating the timeline for their own ends. We have the evidence, and we're exposing the truth." The broadcast went live, transmitting the data to every device on the planet. The world watched in shock as the extent of the TGA's actions was revealed. Protests erupted, and the call for the agency's dissolution grew louder. In the central command, Harris stood defeated. "You've doomed us all," he said quietly. "No, we've given the world a chance to reclaim their future," Elena replied. "Time belongs to everyone, not just a select few." As the broadcast continued, the TGA's power began to crumble. Agents and officials were arrested, and the agency's control over time was dismantled. The world had changed, and a new era of respect for time had begun. In the aftermath, Elena and her team went their separate ways, each finding their own path in the new world they had helped create. For Elena, the victory was bittersweet. She had saved her daughter and exposed the truth, but the cost had been high. Standing on a hill overlooking the city, Elena reflected on their journey. The fight for control over time had revealed the true nature of power and responsibility. She had learned that time was not something to be controlled, but something to be respected and protected. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the horizon, Elena felt a sense of peace. The dawn of unity and respect for time had truly begun, and the future was filled with endless possibilities. With a final look at the city below, Elena turned and walked away, ready to face whatever the future held. The battle for control over time was over, but the journey of discovery and respect had just begun. As the world adjusted to the new reality, Elena Gray's actions became a symbol of resistance and hope. The fight for control over time had revealed deep truths about power, responsibility, and the ethical dilemmas of manipulating reality. Elena's journey was far from over. With the TGA dismantled, new challenges and opportunities awaited. The potential of time manipulation was still vast, and the world needed new leaders to navigate its complexities. Elena stood on the precipice of a new era, ready to continue her work in a world that now understood the true value of time. She knew that the future would bring new adventures, new challenges, and new discoveries. As she walked away from the city, a sense of purpose filled her. The dawn of unity had begun, and she was ready to lead the way into a future where time was respected and shared by all. Stay tuned for the next thrilling adventure in the Sci-Fi Story Vault. The journey of discovery and respect for time continues, and the possibilities are endless. Join us as we explore new worlds, face incredible challenges, and uncover the mysteries of the universe. Click the video on your screen now to dive into another thrilling sci-fi tale from the Sci-Fi Story Vault. Discover new worlds, face incredible challenges, and explore the limitless possibilities of the universe. Subscribe to the Sci-Fi Story Vault for more captivating stories that will take you beyond the stars. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep imagining the future. See you in the next story.